Captain Glax of the Trail Yon fleet was not having a good day. For starters, the human visitors aboard his ship had somehow managed to turn the food synthesizer into a popcorn machine. He didn't even know what popcorn was until they explained it. Small kernels that exploded into fluffy snacks. Ridiculous, but sure enough, the humans had created piles of the stuff, strewn about the ship, like some alien invasion of their own making. He sighed, rubbing his green, mono temples. Ow, he asked aloud. Does one turn an advanced synthesizer into a snack dispenser? Lieutenant Sir floated nearby, his shimmering tendrils flickering in confusion. It is baffling, Captain. They claim it was an accident. Some experimental input. Experimental input, Glax echoed, incredulity creeping into his voice. Are they scientists, engineers? Neither, Captain. They said it was just a fun thing to try out. Glax growled. He had been warned about the humans, unpredictable, they said, resourceful to the point of madness, they said, but the Trail's young fleet had signed the Interstellar Peace Treaty, and part of that treaty was hosting human ambassadors. How bad could it be? After all, these creatures had come from a little blue planet, one filled with oxygen, a volatile element. Either way, what threat could they possibly pose? Oh, how wrong he'd been. The door slid open with a hiss, and in strode two humans, Lieutenant Casey and Specialist Johnson. They were munching on, of course, popcorn. Hey Cap, hope you don't mind, Casey said cheerfully, offering a handful of the fluffy substance. We figured if we're stuck in space for weeks, might as well liven things up. Right. Glax stared at the offering. I do mind, he said through gritted mandibles. This is not a pleasure cruise. Johnson, the taller of the two, scratched his chin. No, but it could be more fun. You guys are too serious. Space is big and boring, lighten up. Glax couldn't believe what he was hearing. His ship was a finely tuned military vessel, designed to monitor and secure entire sectors of space, and these humans wanted to turn it into a floating carnival. I don't know how you convinced your species to send you as representatives, Glax muttered, waving his hand dismissively, but I demand that you cease these reckless. Just then, the alarms blared. Red lights flashed across the control room, and the view screen showed an incoming vessel, a Drivok warship, notorious for raiding and capturing Trail Zone ships. Drivok vessel approaching at high speed, Serv reported, shields up, weapons primed. The humans perked up. A fight, Casey's eyes gleamed. Now that's more like it. Glax's exasperation reached new heights. No, there will be no fighting. The Drivok are hostile, but we can't negotiate. Negotiate? PFFT. Where's the fun in that? Johnson snorted, tossing his popcorn aside and cracking his knuckles. Let us handle it. Before Glax could protest, the humans rushed to the communication terminal. They inputted a sequence of commands, causing the Drivok warship to appear on the screen. A fierce Drivok warlord, test and armored, growled through the transmission, surrender your vessel, or be annihilated. Casey leaned casually on the terminal and grinned. Yeah, about that, you guys like popcorn. The Drivok warlord blinked, clearly confused. What nonsense is this? We are warriors. Hold on, let me show you. Johnson turned to Glax and whispered, trust me, Cap, just go with it. Before Glax could object, the humans transmitted a digital packet to the Drivok ship. Seconds later, the warlord's eyes widened in surprise. A booming pop-pop-pop noise filled the transmission, and the humans on Glax's ship smirked as they watched. The Drivok warlord looked genuinely alarmed. What is this popping noise? That's the sound of your doom, Casey said, barely able to suppress his laughter. Your ship is now full of popcorn, and trust me, once it starts popping, it never stops. You'll be buried alive. The Drivok warlord's face contorted in horror. He slammed the console, trying to regain control. Curse you, humans, he roared. We surrender. Withdraw your weaponized kernels of destruction. The transmission cut out abruptly as the Drivok ship veered away and sped off into the distance. Glax stood there, dumbfounded, as the humans high-fived each other. They had just defeated a warship with popcorn. Sir floated over, equally stunned. Captain, they retreated. Glax turned slowly to the humans. You weaponized popcorn. Casey shrugged. Not really. We just sent them a fake audio file of popping sounds. Turns out Dryvet are terrified of unexplained noises. Who knew? Johnson grinned. Humans are full of surprises. Glax didn't know whether to laugh, scream, or send these two maniacs out the nearest airlock. But as the humans returned to their snack-filled merriment, he couldn't help but think that maybe, just maybe, this absurd species had their uses. Captain Glax was beginning to suspect that the universe had a strange sense of humor. After the popcorn fiasco with the Dryvik warship, things had been relatively calm on his vessel for the last few cycles. Too calm. When the humans were quiet, it meant they were up to something, and Captain Glax didn't like the sound of that one bit. He had learned a hard lesson during their stay. When the humans said, "Relax," chaos was soon to follow. He swiveled his command chair to face his second-in-command, Lieutenant Zerv, who was monitoring the ship's sensors. "Derv, where are the humans now?" Glax asked, suspicion lacing his tone. Zerv floated over to the console, his tendrils tapping away. "They are in the crew quarters, Captain. They seem occupied." Occupied? Glax narrowed his eyes. "Doing what, exactly?" Zerv blinked, confused by what the surveillance footage displayed. "It appears they are throwing pillows at each other." "Pillows?" Glax repeated in disbelief. His voice climbed several octaves. "Why are they throwing pillows? Those are for resting, sleeping." Zerv tilted his head. "It seems to be a form of human recreation, Captain. They call it a pillow fight." Glax groaned, rubbing his face with his clawed hands. "I don't care what they call it. Go down there and tell them to stop immediately. This is a spaceship, not a..." Suddenly, the ship's alarms blared to life again. Glax felt a wave of dread wash over him. "What now?" he muttered, checking the console. "A vessel is approaching," Zerv said. "An unknown ship. It's oddly shaped." Glax's multiple eyes narrowed at the incoming vessel displayed on the view screen. It was large, blocky, and brightly colored. Pink and blue hues adorned the strange ship, giving it a childlike appearance. "I don't like this," Glax growled. "Open communications." Zerv pressed a few buttons, and the face of an alien appeared on the screen. The creature was soft and round, with wide eyes and fuzzy fur. It looked almost cuddly. "Greetings, travelers," the alien said, in a high-pitched, overly cheerful voice. "We are the Fluffians, masters of comfort and coziness. We've detected a source of high levels of fun on your ship and wish to join in your festivities." Glax stared, utterly flabbergasted. "Festivities? What in the name of the stars are you talking about?" "The pillow fight," the Fluffian explained. "I mean, our species thrives on comfort, and nothing brings us more joy than a good, old-fashioned pillow fight. We humbly request to board your ship and partake in the fun." Glax was about to refuse, when a blur of motion caught his attention. The humans had somehow managed to sneak into the command deck, both carrying massive pillows. "Captain, you have to let them on board," Johnson said, his eyes wide with excitement. "This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity," Casey added, adjusting his grip on his own pillow. "We've never met a species that loves pillow fights as much as we do." Glax's mandibles clattered in frustration. "This is absurd. We are a military vessel. We do not..." His protest was cut off as Johnson launched his pillow across the deck, hitting Casey squarely in the chest. Casey retaliated with a soft but well-aimed swing of his own. "Guys, stop," Glax began, but it was too late. The humans were already in full pillow combat. Ducking and weaving across the bridge, one of Casey's wild swings knocked over a console, causing it to spark. Glax could feel his blood pressure rising. "Cease this nonsense at once." The Fluffian captain, still on the view screen, clapped his fluffy hands in glee. "Oh, delightful. Permission to board, Captain." Glax buried his face in his claws. "Fine," he grumbled. "Board, but keep your chaos confined to the lower decks." Within minutes, the Fluffians had arrived on the Trill Xian ship. Their arrival was nothing short of surreal. They bounced down the halls, carrying their own custom pillows, which were embroidered with stars and moons, and some even glowed in the dark. Glax tried to stay out of it, locking himself in his quarters, but the sounds of laughter, thumping pillows, and giggles echoed through the ship. Later that day, Glax ventured out, cautiously observing as his disciplined crew was reduced to a giggling mess. Even Zerv, normally so calm and collected, was holding a pillow with a confused but contented expression. "Captain," Zerv said when he spied Glax, "I do not understand this human activity, but it is oddly satisfying. I don't even know what to say anymore," Glax muttered, shaking his head. Johnson appeared from behind a bulkhead, grinning. "Captain, you should try it. Nothing relieves stress like a good pillow fight." "I relieve stress by not getting involved in ridiculous antics," Glax snapped. Johnson's grin widened. Challenge accepted. Before Glax could react, a pillow was lobbed at him, bouncing harmlessly off his chest. He blinked, stunned by the sheer audacity. "Ew!" Glax's eyes blazed as he picked up the offending pillow. "You dare challenge me?" Johnson laughed, backing up as Glax hefted the pillow menacingly. "I knew you had it in you, Captain." Glax didn't need any more encouragement. With a mighty swing, he sent the pillow flying across the deck, catching Johnson by surprise and knocking him off balance. The humans and Fluffians alike burst into laughter, and Glax, to his own surprise, felt a strange sense of amusement. Maybe, just maybe, the humans weren't completely wrong. There was something strangely cathartic about throwing a pillow around. As the great pillow fight raged on, Glax found himself laughing for the first time in cycles. It was absurd, ridiculous, and utterly against all Trill Zone protocol. But, as the humans often said, when in space, do as the humans do. Captain Glax knew better than to assume that a calm day aboard his ship meant safety. In fact, it usually signaled the opposite. With humans on board, peace and quiet was often a precursor to unimaginable chaos. Today was no exception. The humans had been missing for hours, and Glax was beginning to worry. He was just about to ask Lieutenant Zerv to run a shipwide scan when Casey and Johnson strode onto the bridge, their faces lit up with suspiciously bright smiles. "Captain, we've got an idea," Johnson said, barely able to contain his excitement. Glax's mandibles clicked in annoyance. "Why do I have the feeling this is not something I want to hear?" Casey held up a tablet, tapping on it excitedly. "So, we've been thinking about gravity. You guys have it all figured out with your fancy artificial gravity fields, but we thought, what if we experimented a little?" Glax's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean by experimented?" "Well," Johnson said, "we thought it'd be fun too. Turn off the gravity for a bit. See what happens. Just in one room. Nothing major. It'd be harmless." "Harmless," Glax repeated, his disbelief palpable. "You want to turn off the gravity, something vital to maintaining order on a starship, and you think that's harmless?" Casey nodded. "Yeah, exactly. Just think of it like a little zero-gravity training exercise. It'll give the crew a chance to practice their space acrobatics." Glax groaned, rubbing his forehead with his claws. "This ship is not a training facility, and we are not here to conduct foolish experiments." Johnson waved his hands dismissively. "It won't disrupt anything important, we promise. Just a quick test in the recreation bay." "Absolutely not," Glax said firmly. "I forbid it. The last time you had an idea, we ended up in a galactic pillow fight, which was a great team to building activity. Either way," Casey interjected. Glax shot him a withering look. "No gravity experiments. Understood." The humans exchanged a glance, their expressions not quite as dejected as Glax would have liked. They nodded, albeit a little too quickly, and left the bridge. "Captain," Zerv said cautiously, "do you believe they will actually follow your orders?" Glax sighed deeply. "Not in the slightest. Keep an eye on them." Several hours passed without incident. Glax almost dared to hope that the humans had, for once, listened to him. That is, until the ship suddenly lurched to the side, sending a few consoles skittering across the floor. Glax grabbed the edge of his chair, his claws digging into the metal. "Report," he barked. "Captain," Zerv exclaimed, examining the sensors, "the gravity field in the recreation bay has been altered." Glax's eyes widened. "Altered? How?" "Artificial gravity in that section has been turned off," Zerv replied. The humans, they must have done it. Of course they did, Glax growled, storming out of the bridge. Prepare a containment team. When Glax arrived at the recreation bay, the scene was even more chaotic than he had anticipated. The door slid open to reveal an entire room of floating crew members, aimlessly drifting around like balloons at a bizarre space carnival. The humans, predictably, were in the center of it all, flipping and spinning with wide, delighted grins. "Look, Cap," Johnson called from midair, spinning in a slow somersault. "Zero gravity. Isn't it awesome?" Glax's eye twitched. "You two are out of control," he shouted, trying to suppress his growing frustration. "What part of a no experiments did you not understand?" "We hurt you, Captain," Casey said, twisting himself into a handstand midair. "But we figured it'd be more fun if you saw it in action. Plus, we thought the crew could use some practice." Glax looked around at his crew members, who were flailing helplessly, trying to grab onto any surface. The ship's medic, a tall, dignified upperland, was currently tangled in a bundle of towels that had somehow floated up and wrapped around her tentacles. "This is madness," Glax bellowed. "Turn the gravity back on immediately." Before Casey or Johnson could respond, the gravity field abruptly re-engaged, sending everyone and everything in the room plummeting to the floor. The sound of bodies and loose objects crash into the ground echoed through the bay. "Ow," Johnson groaned, rubbing his back. "Okay, that landing was a little rough." Glax marched over, standing over the humans with fury in his eyes. "What were you thinking?" Casey grinned sheepishly. "We just wanted to show you how cool zero-G could be. Plus, it's practical. If we ever lose gravity during a space battle, now the crew will be ready." "Ready," Glax repeated, looking around at his dazed and disgruntled crew. "Half of them are still trying to figure out which way is up." Johnson nodded. "It's all part of the learning curve. We'll get there." Glax took a deep, steadying breath. "You two are going to clean up this mess. Every last floating object, every misplaced towel, and every confused crew member. Do I make myself clear?" Casey and Johnson exchanged glances. "Crystal," they said in unison, looking slightly less enthusiastic than before. As they began gathering scattered objects from the floor, Glax turned to Zerv, who had followed him into the recreation bay. "Lieutenant," Glax muttered, "what is it about humans that makes them incapable of following simple orders?" Zerv, floating serenely just above the ground, pondered for a moment. "I believe, Captain, that their unpredictability is part of their charm. It may be chaotic, but it does have its benefits." Glax shot him a skeptical look. "Benefits? What benefits could possibly come from this level of chaos?" Zerv nodded towards the humans, who were now helping other crew members to their feet and apologizing profusely. Despite the disaster they caused, there was no denying the camaraderie that had emerged from the mess. Even the medic, who had been tangled in towels earlier, was laughing with the humans as they untangled her. "Sometimes, Captain," Zerv said, "they bring us together in ways we don't expect." Glax sighed, watching as the humans attempted to juggle a few floating objects they retrieved. "Maybe, but they're going to drive me to an early retirement at this rate."